All right, welcome in, folks, to another great episode of I've Got a Theory. I'm your host, Hanish Pulikal. I'm here with my new friend, Brenden. You have a complicated last name, Kumarasamy.
You could just say Brenden from Master Talk. Keeps life easy.
So Brenden from Master Talk, who's an accomplished YouTuber, public speaker, public speaking coach, and guy that I want to connect myself with. So thank you for joining me on the show.
Of course, Hanish. Thanks for having me, man.
Well, so got to take about 30 seconds to thank Manscaped for sponsoring the show and encouraging men's grooming and grooming products. And so at our show, if you use the code I've Got a Theory, you get a discount and free delivery. And surprisingly, a lot of my guests, when I mentioned that we're sponsored, they're like, oh, we already have that stuff. I'm like, oh, cool. Who am I going to sell these to now? But it's an important topic, something that maybe wasn't super popular 20 years ago, but now it's just kind of commonplace for people to think about men's grooming and having specialty products for it, including creams and lotions and sprays and lighted trimmers and stuff like that. So kudos to Manscaped. Thank you for sponsoring. Let's jump into our theory. So Brenden, I want to encourage anyone that's listening to go to your YouTube channels, check out your videos, because they're super effective, super good at teaching people how to become better speakers. What's your background? How'd you learn how to become a great speaker?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So what happened was when I was in university, I went to business school. I used to do these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were playing football or soccer or any other sport, what I was doing instead with that same competitive spirit is I was doing presentations. So I know this is odd, but for 3 years, I presented hundreds of times and coached dozens of people on their communication skills. And I did that for fun primarily. Then after I got a job in corporate America, I just asked myself a simple question, which is, how do you make a difference in the world? And that's when the idea for Master Talk came, because I realized a lot of the information on communication online is really bad. You hear advice like, you should be yourself or get up on stage. And I was like, this is useless. So I started making videos in my mother's basement. One thing led to another, and the rest is history.
And the great thing is you give specific tips, specific examples, specific exercises that people can do that can improve their speaking.
Absolutely.
And
go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I'm big on that. You're absolutely right. I hate the vague generalities. I try to be as specific as possible.
Yeah, it's almost insulting when people are basically saying, do better. I'm like, I thought I was doing okay. Like, how would I do better? And so, I like yours. And similarly, I haven't done it as competitively as you have, but I have focused on being a better presenter, making sure I'm effective, using silences and avoiding ums and ahs, because that's common, right? I mean, these filler words are brutal. And if you're listening to someone on a 5-minute presentation and they do 100 filler words, you're like, wow, I literally check marked this off. And that was hard to understand because their thoughts were so chopped up.
Absolutely. Completely agreed, man.
So here's my theory that I wanted to discuss with you. I think that poor public speaking and communication skills will hurt your personal and professional life more than you could imagine.
I'm with you, man. I like the theory a lot. And I think the reason why it's so true, and this is what I really push in my videos and what I do, is public speaking is not just about presentations. It's not about presenting in front of 10,000 people. It's not about having a podcast. It's every interaction you have with every human being.
True. Even if it's one-on-one or 1 on 1,000.
Absolutely. It's the dinner conversations you have with your family. It's the tough conversations you have with them. It's the person at the park that you meet to the person who delivers your pizza. Every interaction you have is public speaking. To your point, the quality of your life, not just the quality of your presentations, will improve if you try and master this.
I agree. And that's public speaking and communication skills are low hanging fruit, right? I can only do so much effort to be more attractive or more, appearance wise, but I can communicate better and get people's attention or command a room because of my ability to convey a message properly. And ideally you would too. And I argue this with people not too often because it's a pretty quick argument that every job that you have and every relationship you have is effectively a sales job. Right? Even if you're in a job where there's no sales quota and you're not trying to buy or sell something, even if you're an accountant or a clerk or anything like that, you have to be persuasive to your manager, your boss, that you're doing a good job, even if you're empirically doing a good job or bad job. Because if they don't think you are, then you're not. But if you can convey to them that you're doing a good job because of the words, because of your communication, you're more likely to get promoted, raise, etc. What do you think?
I completely agree once again. I think we're going to be agreeing a lot of this episode in the sense that, yeah, even if you're the best in the world at what you do, if nobody knows that you're the best, if nobody understands your value prop, and you don't communicate your personal brand to the world, it's going to be really hard to stand out in the world. This
So,
is true with everything.
so with these episodes, with these podcasts, one of the things I'm trying to create is awareness and understanding and encouraging people to want to get better themselves or expand their knowledge. And in this case, my goal would be to help people understand that their communication skills should be something they practice and think about and be conscious of to improve. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So how do you get people pumped about that? How do you get people saying, I don't really care whether I, speak better or have a better public presence because it doesn't matter to me. I never want to. I'm scared of public speaking. I would never put myself in that position. Versus, yeah, you're pretty much in that position all the time, And my wife will argue with me all the time that, oh, you get away with so much stuff because of this and that, because of who you are. I'm like, I don't know if it's because of who I am as much as how I convey my message, right? And so when we have an issue with the retailer or the service person or whatever it could be, oftentimes I can usually talk my way out of things and through things. Brenden, do you mind if I pause for 1 second?
Yeah, you're good.
So excuse the interruption, but yeah, just jump back in. But yeah, I was saying that my wife and other people be like, oh, you're able to talk your way out of things and get things the way you want. And they kind of say that with like a little bit of bitterness when that shouldn't be the case. I would want them to get better themselves and have similar results because it's not like I'm gaming the system or cheating or cheaping anyone out. It's just that I'm able to find a common language or common ground understanding and be persuasive without being pushy.
I'm with you, man. Absolutely. In the sense that when you learn how to persuade, when you learn how to influence, at the end of the day, for you to get to the next level, you need other human beings to get you there. Whether it's someone who's blocking a door, whether it's someone who gets you, that next step, or it's somebody that you want to date. Like everything is always about interaction with other humans. And even if we don't like to admit it, we are selling ourselves all the time to a certain
Always.
degree,
Yeah.
right? It's just for different purposes. In some instances, it could be for a partner. In other instances, it's a job. And for some cases, it's a raise. Like every time we're always selling, we just got to figure out how can we do it in an authentic way in communication, and mastering that skill helps us figure out that identity faster.
And you mentioned it in relationships as well. And that's something that people don't think about, right? I mean, they think that, they can go to the gym and get some big muscles and then all of a sudden the dating pool fills up for them. But that's not necessarily the case. You could be a regular or less than regular looking guy. And with good words and good communication and even better listening, you could really increase your odds of having a good relationship and meeting people.
Absolutely, man.
So how do we get people pumped up about that? How do we get people understanding the power of words, the power of effective communication, get them to do some more coaching or listening to your videos and understanding that you could be effective in leading them through this and getting them to the next step and understanding that this should be one of those core skills they work on?
Absolutely, man. For me, it's a question. The question is, how would the world change if you were an exceptional communicator? If you were one of the best speakers out there, how would the world be different? And for all of us, that answer is going to change. For one person, it's, I want to travel to 70 countries, and most of the time I won't have time to learn the language. But if I have good body language, good mirroring, I can communicate in a way through the way that I am, where even if I don't understand the language, they're going to trust me. That's one reason. Another one is saying, hey, I always argue with my wife all the time, 94/7, not 20%, 94/7. Like, so how do you fix this?
Yeah,
Well, you realize very quickly 80% of all those arguments are misunderstandings, nothing more.
100%. That
So
always happens. Yeah.
yeah, so if you're really good at communication, well, then you don't have any problems. I mean, for the women in my life, I have very little issues with my mom and my sister because I know how to communicate. So it's not about being on a stage. It's about how do you selfishly find those incentives that make you say, it's because of these reasons. I want to personally master communication. So find those.
So besides your experience at university, when you were doing these kind of debate clubs type things or presentation clubs, was there any other activities that you undertook to get better at public speaking?
That's actually a great question. I would say 95% of my initial training came from that case competition environment. It's really intense. Just to give you an idea, like presenting 300 times in 3 years is pretty insane.
Were
You're
there
almost
different topics that you presented on, or was it always the same, or was it like a pop-up surprise topic?
you got it. Think of it like this: a business gives you a problem, and then based on that problem, you have to find a solution. But you have 3 hours to build your slides, make the solution happen, and then you have to present the entire solution, generally to executives of that very same company. So it's a very high stress environment, and a lot of the students did it for fun. It's a very bizarre situation. So that's how I learned the skills, and then after I used that experience, and now I primarily just coach executives today.
That's awesome. And so tell me about that executive coaching experience. How's that go? How do people, one, come to trust someone that's at your age and experience level professionally to say, hey, this guy's better than me, even though he's 20 years younger than me, and then get to be my coach, right? How do you overcome that objection?
Yeah, it's the right question to ask. And my perspective has always been, and that's gotten me the results: show, don't tell. Don't tell people what you do. Show them. So whenever I don't pitch people anymore because I have pretty good practice these days. But I mean, when I started, and I'd pitch a CEO or somebody I wanted to work with, I wouldn't say, "Hey, I'm Brenden. I'm a speech coach. Here's my YouTube videos." No, no, no. I would say, "Hey, buddy, I watched a keynote on your YouTube page and I found 58 mistakes in the pitch that nobody other professional caught. Here you go." They always respond with how much you charge. Right. So I think for me, it's always results. And of course, I'm not going to hide it either. I also got lucky along the way because my business partner is double my age, and he introduces me to a lot of his executive clients. So I've been able to build the business that way too.
So for your coaching business, you have a partner that helps you kind of acquire customers.
Yeah, it's half and half. Half of it comes from brand equity from the YouTube. Other half is joint ventures.
Oh, wow. And so that's huge. And so it's tough because you're doing it just for executives. Is there a way you could get to people at a bigger scale besides YouTube? Could you like run a course that you like syndicated out?
Yeah, that's in the works, but I would say for now, and that's why I started Master Talk, is really for the people who can't afford me, right? Which is most at this point. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to watch and learn free stuff. And the reason is because, speech coaches are really expensive. I think that's what I found when I started, just how the market is. So I just said, hey, what, like, it sucks. I mean, it's the most important skill. Like, people are using it to solve their conflicts, at work or at home or anywhere, and nobody was sharing this stuff for free, and it kind of drove me crazy. So that's why I wanted to do something about it.
No, it's a huge value add that you're providing because we've all heard the cliche that the two biggest fears people have are public speaking and dying. And so they get those jokes about who's doing the eulogy type thing. But at the same point, it's like I remember years ago I took a improv comedy class, and it wasn't to be funny or to get on stand up or trying to become an actor or something like that. I just wanted to improve my public speaking and my ability to be able to riff off of someone quickly, agreeably, without having any kind of issue. So it's good mind practice to get you to think quickly. Have you ever tried something like that?
Oh yeah, I love that. I'm a big fan of improv personally, and I always like to try and learn something in the funnest possible way. Pronunciation is a great example. A lot of people ask me about, Brenden, how do you pronounce words better? And I always respond, karaoke in languages you don't understand. They go, what? Like, what do you mean? And I always respond with, well, what are you going to do? You're going to wake up every morning for 10 minutes and go, I like oranges. No, you're going to give up after 3 days. It's not fun. It's not interesting. So yeah, just sing songs that you find interesting in languages you don't understand. Like,
Wow.
one fun fact about me is I can karaoke in 8 different languages.
Come on. Which languages?
Yeah,
And why?
yeah, yeah, of course, it's worth asking. So I speak three: English, French, and Tamil. And then outside of those three, I can karaoke in five other ones: Korean, Mandarin, Japanese, Hindi, and Spanish.
Wow.
So,
And
so
so,
the re-
so
yeah, go
when
ahead.
you're saying karaoke in those, you're reading the lyrics off the screen. Do you necessarily know what you're saying?
No, I have no idea what I'm saying
Okay,
in
so
those
you're
five
just good at
languages.
reading it and pronunciation of those words. You assume as someone vetted you out and said, "Yeah, I'm Korean," and you're singing that song properly.
Oh yeah, I hang out with a lot of these people. But the point is, this is the takeaway, because a lot of people probably think this is stupid, is as you get better in pronouncing words you don't understand, when you go back to the languages you actually know how to speak, your pronunciation is perfect. And I can give you an example. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? That was French. But notice how there's no accent when I speak. Or even if I say something like Ohayo gozaimasu genki desu ka, which is Japanese, like I'm switching languages like almost effortlessly. And the reason is because I've learned to karaoke in those languages, which makes me effective and versatile. And that's why my pronunciation is so good in English.
Wow. And so, you mentioned that you have no accent when you spoke in French, and I took French growing up, so I understood what you said. But how would you say that differently if you were saying it with an accent?
That's a good question. I wouldn't know because I guess I removed it. But yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't really know. I guess I trained it out.
Yeah, no, yeah, people bust on me because when I try to do accents for other people, just like their accent in English, it always just comes out like a bad Russian accent. And so I know my limitations. I'm actually fairly good at karaoke in English for most varieties of songs. But the one time that I was at a Korean karaoke bar and I was trying to sing a song in Korean, and then the Korean host came in, I felt very embarrassed. I felt like I was almost insulting their culture, and I was like, I didn't mean to be insulting. The song just popped up randomly, and I just thought I'd go with it.
I love it. I mean, the Korean people love it when I sing in Korean, man. I'm sure you'll get to my level soon enough.
I got to spend some more time in karaoke places, that's for sure.
You got it, man. It's the training camp.
Well, this has been a fun conversation. I don't need to drag this on, but this has been hugely entertaining and influential to me. And I really want to push people to come check out your YouTube channel and get the advice out of it, practice it, get better at speaking. Because when you're a better speaker, you also end up becoming a better listener because you can't talk to people unless you're hearing what they're saying also.
I'm with you, man. 100%.
And so I think that could solve a lot of problems, especially the ones that we have in America where people are kind of pounding their fists and they're always right and the other side's always wrong, and no one's listening to anyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Love it.
Well, Brenden, thank you for your time. I want to thank again Manscaped on the way out for sponsoring the show and providing some swag to me and helping with men's grooming. Brenden with Master Talk, thanks for joining me on I've Got a Theory.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.